Hi, this is Anna London with Cyvergence, and in this episode, we're going to be talking about 2023 year in review for our cyber threat landscape, right? If everything is critical, then nothing is, right? You know, the alert fatigue aspect, right? So we need to prioritize more effectively and do a better job as a community as a whole, protecting our global information grid. So let's talk about it, because as 2023 nears its end, it's time to pause and reflect, right? We all do on different things. In my case, not only am I, pausing and reflecting on my personal life, my professional life, but also cyber threats. I'm going to assess here, okay, what worked and what didn't, what caught our attention, caused disruption, what went unnoticed even. And more importantly, we need to know what lessons we learned from 2023 so that we can do a better job of managing risk in the coming year. Okay, so we're going to talk about some key takeaways from 2023 and then break it down a bit. Less than 1% of vulnerabilities contributed to the highest risk and were routinely exploited in the wild. 97 high-risk vulnerabilities likely to be exploited were not part of the CISA or CISA, potato, known exploited vulnerabilities, the KEV catalog. 25% of these security vulnerabilities were immediately targeted for exploitation, with the exploit being published on the same day as the vulnerability itself was publicly disclosed. 1/3 of high-risk vulnerabilities impacted network devices and web applications. And exploitation of remote services, exploitation of public-facing applications, and exploitation for privilege escalation were the top 3 MITRE attack tactics, okay, for this year. So 26,447 vulnerabilities as of this podcast have been disclosed thus far in 2023, eclipsing the total number of vulnerabilities disclosed in 2022 by over 1,500 CVEs, the common vulnerabilities and exposures. And this continues the years-long trajectory of more vulnerabilities being found than the year before, okay? Not all vulnerabilities present a high risk, though. In fact, a small subset, less than 1%, contributes to the highest risk. And these particularly critical vulnerabilities are ones that have a weaponized exploit. They are actively exploited by ransomware, by threat actors, and malware, or have confirmed evidence of exploitation in the wild. It is these vulnerabilities that we will examine in detail in this podcast. Okay, so let's take a deeper look into the breakdown of 2023's vulnerabilities. Okay, so, as we analyze the high-risk vulnerabilities to get more insights and discuss common trends, we're going to talk about which ones were most exploited, what attack methods and tactics were used, and what strategies that we can use to fortify defenses against them. Okay, so these are some highlights. Over 7,000 vulnerabilities had proof of concept exploit code. These vulnerabilities could result in successful exploitation. However, the exploit code is typically of lower quality, which may reduce the likelihood of a successful attack. 206 vulnerabilities had weaponized exploit code available, and exploits for these vulnerabilities are highly likely to comprise or compromise the target system if used. There were 115 vulnerabilities routinely exploited by threat actors, malware, and ransomware groups such as CL0P, okay? Of the vulnerabilities observed, 109 had known evidence of exploitation and were listed in the CISA KEV, okay, list. 97 vulnerabilities were exploited in the wild but were not included in the CISA KEV list. Okay, and organizations that prioritize based on the CISA KEV should pay special attention to the CVEs, the common vulnerabilities and exposures from MITRE, right, that MITRE actually tracks. The ransomware groups such as Lockbit and Cerber, okay, exploited 20 vulnerabilities, and additionally 15 vulnerabilities were exploited by malware and botnet groups. And let's look at some top vulnerability types, because more than 1/3 of the high-risk vulnerabilities identified could be exploited remotely. The 5 most prevalent types of vulnerabilities comprised of over 70% of the total discovered. And this underscores the critical need for a comprehensive vulnerability management strategy in every organization that includes remote scanning capabilities, not solely relying on agent-based methods either. Okay, so let's look at the mean time to exploit high-risk vulnerabilities in 2023. Okay, because we witnessed a critical trend in exploiting high-risk vulnerabilities. And this analysis reveals a startling insight into how quickly attackers capitalize on these vulnerabilities. The mean time to exploit vulnerabilities in 2023 stands at 44 days, about 1.5 months, folks. Okay, this average masks the urgency of the situation. And in numerous instances, vulnerabilities had exploit available on the very day they were published. This immediate action represents a shift in the modus operandi of attackers, highlighting their growing efficiency and the ever-decreasing window for response by defenders. So let's take a closer look at the data between 0 to 25 days. Because 25% of high-risk CVE is exploited on the day of publication of this podcast, a staggering 25% of these vulnerabilities were immediately targeted for exploitation, with the exploit published on the same day the vulnerability itself was publicly disclosed. So see, hackers are using the opportunity of even disclosing where the risks are in order to basically capitalize off of those attacks. This statistic serves as a wake-up call for organizations to adopt a proactive stance towards patch management and threat intelligence. The 3-week window, right? So the data further shows that 75% of vulnerabilities were exploited within 19 days. So approximately 3 weeks, okay, of the publication of the vulnerability, right? On the CISA KEVs and, of course, the CVE list. And this timeline offers a crucial window for organizations to prioritize and address the most critical vulnerabilities, okay, in their environments. 1/3 of high-risk vulnerabilities found in network infrastructure and web applications were found, okay, in 2023. So a substantial 32.5% of the 206 identified vulnerabilities reside within the networking infrastructure or web application domains, sectors traditionally difficult to safeguard through conventional means. Okay, so this highlights our necessity of a comprehensive vulnerability management strategy. And by deploying a variety of vulnerability management methods, including agent-based, agentless, and network-based techniques, organizations can ensure extensive and proactive protection across all IT assets. A a multi-pronged strategy, right, is essential, for effectively detecting and remediating threats, okay, bolstering security and compliance in areas particularly susceptible to sophisticated cyber risks. And, we need to broaden the scope of protection by encompassing agent support as well as network, external, and passive scanning capabilities, supply chain risk management, granting organizations a detailed and diverse view of their security posture, right, through a gap analyses, right, and vulnerability analyses. More than 50% of high-risk vulnerabilities exploited by threat actors and ransomware groups in 2023. And of those 206 high-risk vulnerabilities that we're mentioning today, more than 50% were leveraged by threat actors, ransomware, or malware to compromise systems. 115 exploited by named threat actors, 20 exploited by ransomware, and 15 exploited by malware and botnets. The vulnerabilities identified span an extensive set of systems and applications, including, but not limited to, of course, Papercut NG, MoveIt, Transfer, various Windows operating systems, Google Chrome, Atlassian, Confluence, Apache, ActiveMQ, among many others. And this breadth showcases that no application is beyond the reach of attackers who are determined to exploit any vulnerability to compromise systems. Many of these vulnerabilities, such as those found in MoveIT, MoveIt, Transfer, Windows Smart Screen, and Google Chrome, are exploitable remotely, obviating the need for physical access to the targeted system. And certain vulnerabilities permit attackers to circumvent authentication mechanisms, as observed with vulnerabilities in Papercut NG, or to escalate the privileges, such as with the Windows Common Log File System driver vulnerabilities. And these type of vulnerabilities are particularly alarming due to their potential to grant attackers higher levels of access, thereby, of course, simplifying system compromise and data exfiltration efforts. Okay, so vulnerabilities found in these platforms like Fortran, Go Anywhere MFT, and Apache ActiveMQ are capable of facilitating remote code execution or command injection. And these allow attackers to run arbitrary commands, which would lead to full system control, right? Gotcha. Command and control of your entire system, game over. Cybersecurity threats often targeting specific software versions, as seen as MoveIt Transfer, require a dynamic and comprehensive strategy. Okay, this includes regular updates, patches, vulnerability assessments, and a robust authentication, as well as people that know what they're doing. Okay, skilled professionals that can read and interpret the results from your vulnerability scanning tools, because that's important. Buying the tool is one step, but having the team that can effectively read and interpret and help you prioritize that risk and fix the risk, right, remediate or mitigate that risk, is the most important part, right, of this equation here. Okay, and there's definitely a disconnect, because a lot of people will identify findings, but they don't follow through to fixing all of them, because many of them don't know how either, right? So you need to hire skilled individuals and employ a SOC team, right? Security Operations Center, whether it be internal or external, to watch over your stuff 24/7, 365, for good instant response on the reactive side, identify indicators of compromise, but also proactive, right? So my team can do that, okay? My team can do that because we also look at ways in which we can proactively ensure that your machines are secure. You know, is there data at rest employed, right? Full disk encryption, right? All these things. Are your operating systems end of life? All these things, right? We can help you stay on top of it, okay? So don't count us out. In fact, count us into your strategy, continuous monitoring strategy, because we can help you, honestly. And if not us, someone else, but at least, look, hire a SOC team, honestly. Look, you need to include patches, updates, vulnerability assessments, robust authentication, to name a few. It's hard. It's a lot, right? There's a lot involved in this, okay? It's not just VPNs, folks, and all that. It's not just like that. It's not just VPNs and antivirus on your machines. There's a lot to take in consideration here at multi-layers. And so you need to hire bona fide professionals that know these multi-layered approaches to help you secure your data and your systems and your infrastructure, right? So, look, proactive and preventative measures are crucial for effective defense against these evolving and complex threats rather than merely reactive responses, which most organizations do. It's just react, right? So, here's some top MITRE attack tactics and techniques, right? So thank you, MITRE, who's basically done this for decades, okay? So in 2023, all 206 vulnerabilities from 2023 in the data set we're discussing today were weaponized. Every single one of them, folks, offering a stark view into the tactics employed by cyber adversaries. Okay, so we're going to look at the top MITRE attack techniques and methods used in these exploits, shedding light on the most prevalent avenues of cyber attacks, as witnessed this year. So the first one we're going to discuss is exploitation of remote services, Tango 1210 and Tango 0866. This is the most frequently observed method, with 72 occurrences in the enterprise environments and 24 in industrial control systems, okay? This technique, utilized for initial access and lateral movement, highlights the importance of securing remote service protocols against unauthorized access and exploitation. And believe it or not, people still have unsecure, file transfer protocol. They still are using Telnet. They're still using RDP. They're using a lot of different things, but they don't know how to secure it. Or they're using a lot of means in which the way in which the remote authentication is for admins to even administer those devices is unsecure and unencrypted. So that's a huge hole anyways within itself. And so, leaving ports, protocols, and services open that don't need to be open, that are just blatantly unsecure. A lot of people just don't know what to do, right? So you need to hire bona fide cybersecurity experts, okay? Really, you get what you pay for, right? I'm just saying. The second one we're going to discuss is exploitation of public-facing applications. Okay, that's Tango 1190 and Tango 0819. According, basically 53 times, okay, in enterprise domains it has occurred, and 19 times in ICS, industrial control systems, okay? So this technique targets applications accessible from the internet. It's a favored initial access route for attackers, showcasing the critical need for robust externally facing application security. Okay, which a lot of applications that are built never even go through. Okay, they might go through a penetration test on occasion, but they never go through a robust static or dynamic code analyses review using something like CAST or something, right? So for those of you that are building applications, turn to OWASP, OWASP.org, okay, for a lot of guidance on how you can secure your applications and the code that you're writing it in to ensure that not only does it stay robust, but it's also secure as you roll it out to folks, okay, that are using your applications. Let's talk about the third one. It's exploitation for privilege escalation, Tango 1068. Noted 20 times, okay, this technique involves attackers exploiting vulnerabilities to gain higher privileges within a system. And its occurrence underlines the need for effective privilege management and monitoring within enterprise networks. Okay, so in addition to these dominant methods, 2023 also saw other tactics contributing to the diverse threat matrix, like exploitation for client execution, which is Tango 1203, privilege escalation in mobile devices, right? Tango 1404, application and system exploitation, Tango 1499.004, external remote services, Tango 1133, drive-by compromise, Tango 1189, privilege escalation in industrial control systems, Tango 0890, malicious link, Tango 1204.001, and of course, remote services exploitation in mobile devices, Tango 1428. Those are the high level ones, right? Because there's a lot. Each of these techniques represents a distinct challenge in cybersecurity. Okay, offering insights into the evolving tactics of cyber adversaries, right? From exploiting public-facing applications to leveraging remote services and executing privilege escalation, these methods paint a huge picture of a sophisticated and multifaceted threat landscape. Okay, so understanding these prevalent attack techniques is crucial for developing more effective defense strategies and reinforcing cybersecurity measures against these prevalent attacks. Right? Yes, it's hard to stay abreast of these, but again, if you hired skilled individuals, right, that know what they're doing, go to authoritative sources, right, to help you secure your systems. A lot of this stuff can be prevented, honestly. A lot of these breaches can be prevented. A lot of folks, aren't even paying attention, or if they do, they just don't know. They don't know how to remediate the findings. And this goes for government, commercial, and educational institutions. I've seen it all. They'll hire a few people that they think, but they only are like niched into a certain area of expertise. So you need somebody with a broad range that can actually work across the aisle with multiple teams in order to help to identify root cause, right? The problem, whether it be an operational issue, security issue, and help work with those IT folks to actually implement, defense mechanisms, immediately, okay? Enough talking, just do it, right? Take action. And then you need to measure the effectiveness, though, of what you put in place, because sometimes you might think, even the vendor might even recommend something, but it may not work for your specific environment, altogether, right? Because of all the interoperability, systems that you have, the applications that you have too, so you might need to look at other things. So don't just do it and then blindly let it go, measure the effectiveness of it and work with your vendors that you have running in your environments, right? Bi-directional communication to ensure that, you're working with them too, letting them know if there is a problem so they can work too to fix it. They don't always all the time know. They rely on our input, okay? They do. From the users, from the admin users as well, right? That are administering those systems at these organizations. So some of the most exploited vulnerabilities this year, that stood out as most frequently exploited, there's a whole volume of exploits, So the CVE 2023-0669, that's the Fortran Go Anywhere Managed File Transfer, RCE vulnerability. All these are CVE 2023, so I'm just going to state the last digits. 20887, VMware ARIA operations for network command injection vulnerability. 22952, Sugar CRM, remote code execution, the RCE vulnerability. 23397, the Microsoft Outlook elevation of privilege vulnerability. 24880, Windows Smart Screen Security Feature Bypass Vulnerability. 27350, the Papercut NG-MF multiple security vulnerabilities. The 28252, got a few more to list. Trust me, I'm not going to go through all the lists. These are high level, but it's important to discuss, and bring to everybody's attention. Because a lot of people don't even know to look here. They don't even know to look at these various sources, believe it or not. So the 28252 is the Windows Common Log File System driver, elevation of privilege vulnerability, if I can spit it out. 2868 is the Barracuda Email Security Gateway vulnerability. 29059 is the 3CX Charlie X-ray desktop client supply chain vulnerability. And of course, 34362 is the MOVEit transfer injection vulnerability, right? All preceded by CVE, Common Vulnerabilities Exposures, dash 2023, okay, for this year. These are the high level ones. There's hundreds, okay? So go to cve.mitre.org, okay, and you can look. You can even type in the application or the system, you know, if it's Zoom, if it's whatever you're doing, right? You can see all the vulnerabilities and exposures that have been identified and tracked in this database, right, by MITRE, like I said, for decades. And so you can stay abreast of what's going on. A lot of these are, of course, imported into your vulnerability scanners, as long as you're keeping them updated as well. Like Tenable Nessus, for instance, right, you have to keep that updated as well. So it's looking at the most current attacks, right, for your systems. But don't just stop there, because it's a multi-layered approach, right? So in 2023, the cyber landscape was shaken by TA505 also known as the CLOP, okay, ransomware gang, okay? So that group masterminded a high-profile cyber attack by exploiting zero-day vulnerabilities, and they notably exploited zero-day vulnerabilities in key platforms like GoAnywhere MFT, Papercut, MOVEit, and SysAid. Their sophisticated use of diverse malware types for information gathering and attack facilitation marked them as a significant threat. Okay. The severity of their actions prompted advisories from the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, right? CISA or CISA, potato. I've heard it stated both. Okay. They're doing their best, but working with NSA, working with FBI, right? Also highlighting the need for improved cybersecurity measures. So the most active malware of 2023 is Lockbit and Clop, because they've been the most prominent in the ransomware arena. Lockbit uses its advanced ransomware as a service model and targeted a range of organizations, including the IT and finance sectors. Lockbit exploited vulnerabilities such as CVE 2023, the 27350 in Papercut NG, and the CVE 2023 0699 in Google Chrome, allow remote attackers to bypass authentication and exploit heap corruption. Heap is at the memory, okay? The memory level. There's heap and stack. So these are like buffer overflow areas, right? These are the random access memory, right? The volatile memory of your machine, okay? So when it talks about heap and stack, that's what it's referring to. Clop, known for exploiting vulnerabilities, has conducted extensive attacks on large enterprises, notably in finance, IT, and healthcare sectors. Clop's activities included exploiting the CVE 2023 27350, the 34362, 0669, and 35036. And those vulnerabilities ranged anywhere from SQL injection in MOVEit IT transfer, allowing database access, to a pre-authentication command injection in GoAnywhere MFT, and bypassing authentication altogether in Papercut NG. The cyber landscape is evolving, okay? We know this. But with the proliferation of hacking tools and knowledge, allowing less skilled hackers to exploit vulnerabilities, once only accessed by highly sophisticated attackers, okay? This broadens the attack spectrum and horizon, including, advanced hackers, less experienced malicious cyber actors, and digital activists, marking a significant shift in cyber threat dynamics. And I do think there's too much out there, right? Take your stuff off YouTube. Like, anybody right now can look at how to do anything on YouTube, anything from changing a battery in your car, right? Or a battery in your fob for your car, to also how to use different ways in which to hack, right? Environments. It doesn't take much either. It doesn't, an 8-year-old can do it. That's the scary part. If they have the right knowledge and the right access to different things, they can do it. So if an 8-year-old can do it, anybody can do it, honestly. And it's on us to actually close all those doors and just be that watchman, if you will, to avoid these in the first place. Because a lot of these actually can be prevented. And again, through a SOC, if you have an active security operations team, okay, like ours, 24/7, 365, like even Christmas. Yesterday was Christmas, right? But we had people on watch because hackers never sleep, networks never sleep. Okay. So, we can help you, right? So you can reach out to us we can make it affordable for your organizations. You'll have a dedicated SOC analyst teams in which to support your organizations and your data, right, and help you secure your systems. We do it in the cloud. We don't watch your text messages. We don't watch any of that stuff. It's an agent-based solution that pulls all the analytics off your machines, right, the vulnerability statistics, look at your cyber hygiene, look at whether or not you have data at rest on your machine, that your drive is even encrypted or not, if it's effective. Look at the configuration baselines, look at the patch levels, looking at all these things. But we also look at, indicators of compromise. We look at all that. And then we have skilled folks that can actually help you secure your machines and keep it secure, right? All your data. And on all your different applications that you're using, even those other cloud applications that we can pull in, right? Centralized, we look at logs, we look at everything that we can pull off of your devices, okay? Your devices, your phones, etc. So even if you have a home network, we can help you with that too, because I think the home networks, nobody's looking at them. Right? Nobody's looking at them at all. And, everybody's for SOC, they're looking at the big companies, but small and medium companies also need it, as well as those small offices or the networks at home, where you even have your kids, right, bringing home their laptop from the school. Once they plug into your home network and it's unsecure, that also actually can have a dire impact. A vulnerability can be presented, or a breach can be presented on that machine, that then they go and they plug back into, their network at their school, right? So it can provide also a vulnerability for the school systems, student data, parent data, faculty data too, right? Can be exposed in that way too. So it's our job, even at home, to protect our global information grid as a whole. So reach out to us, right? Even if you don't know, right? Or, there's different options we can present, and just reach out to us and we can help you. We can help you secure your systems, right? That's what we do. That's what we do. Okay. And we can teach you how to protect your systems as well, if that's something you're interested in, right? So, these instances that we discussed today, okay, highlight the speed with which vulnerabilities can escalate from publication, okay, to weaponized exploit to exploitation, and illustrate the immediacy with which cyber threats evolve upon the disclosure of vulnerabilities. And this rapid evolution from publication, right, by CVE, by KEV, right, the MITRE, and of course CISA or CISA. So that evolution from publication to exploitation and weaponization emphasizes the critical need for organizations to monitor disclosures, very closely, and implement rapid response mechanisms to mitigate potential attacks. And again, the way you can do that is through a SOC, 24/7, 365 SOC. And anywhere in the world, we've got people all over the world too, actually representing anywhere in Nigeria, for instance, in Kenya, in Egypt, right? So we have people actually all over the world, and we can actually establish different organizations where they're vectors, if you will, to manage, there. And then you'd have a point of contact you can reach out to, right, even there locally, right? So we manage in the cloud, but we're secure. We manage securely in the cloud, okay? Because cloud by itself is not secure. It's the overlay of the additional elements and stuff that we provide that's secure, okay? And we help to maintain your devices. So, there's a lot of different ways in which we can help. So, in conclusion, basically, the threat landscape of 2023, okay, and its analyses, it's evident that the rapid pace of vulnerability weaponization and the diversity of threat actors pose significant challenges for organizations globally. Okay, so here's a few recommendations to reduce that risk. To accurately assess the genuine risk presented by open vulnerabilities within your organization, it's essential that businesses, okay, and home users employ a comprehensive set of sensors ranging from agent to network scanners to external scanners. And again, that's something we can provide as part of our Security Operations Center services. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. We can help you with that, because that's something we provide as part of that overarching service. You need to have a thoroughly an inventory, okay, of all public-facing applications and remote services to ensure that they're not vulnerable to high-risk vulnerabilities. Right? Employ a multifaceted approach to the prioritization of vulnerabilities. A lot of people don't know where to start, so that's why I say reach out to us. We have skilled, we've supported the FBI, we've supported Department of State, we've supported Department of Labor, USAID, right, a variety of things. So we know what we're talking about, okay? We have extensive experience in this sector, okay? We can help you, okay? And especially focus on home users too that are extremely vulnerable. And your system, your unsecured systems, can not only be used for folks to get access to your data, your home data, your PII data, your children's data, but also be used as a vector in which to launch an attack against another business or our critical infrastructure, a government entity, right? So, it's incredibly important that you take heed, take this seriously, okay? Don't just say, well, just because it's happening to everybody, there's nothing I can do. Yes, there is something you can do about it. Talk with us and we can help you so that you don't become a statistic, okay? So you need to employ that multifaceted approach, the multi-pronged approach, okay? You need to focus on the known to be exploited in the wild, starting with the CISA KEVs and the CVE.MITRE.org's, okay, database, okay, catalog of vulnerabilities and exposures that have a high likelihood of exploitation indicated by a high EPSS score. So you don't probably even know what that is. We do. We can help you with that, okay? And of course, those with weaponized exploit code available, right? Run static and dynamic code analyses tools on your applications you're building, okay? Please, because the majority of, in fact, 23% of developer companies, like whether they be a startup, tech company, or what have you, there's only 23% across the board globally that are actually running their code through static and dynamic code analyses. When you ask them about, do you test your application, do you test your code, they'll say, oh yeah, we do. But but in further investigation analyses, they're only doing user acceptance testing, UAT testing. They look for feature functionality. Does this work as intended? They're not looking at it from the security point of view, okay? Which is very concerning. It's 23%, folks. So that's a huge window of things that are not being done, right? So that's what, 77 percent that are not secure. So you don't know what again, even your phone is an operating system. It has applications running on it, right? It needs antivirus, it needs all these things. And so again, we can help you with the phones. Now we have the capability though to manage if you have an iPhone or if you have the Google and the Androids. Those are the two. We have the ability on your phones, but we can do all your mobile devices, your routers, your firewalls, things like that. We can, and a lot of the things at home, we can help to monitor. Okay, we can definitely do that. Okay, so, look, our recommendations will help reinforce the critical need for a robust, proactive approach to vulnerability and risk management. Okay, especially in the ever increasingly sophisticated and pervasive area of cyber threats, and help you to, avoid data breaches from begin with, because a lot of these actually can be avoided. A lot of these can be prevented, right? If you know what to do, employing the right people, right skill set, and technology is only the first part of it, right? So that's almost like this two halves of a whole. So buy the technology is one thing, but it alone cannot secure your systems. You need the person to be able to review and analyze and interpret the results, and to help you then mitigate those findings. Understand even if it's a false positive, right? Or a false negative or something too, to kind of, interpret and look and analyze through the noise, right? And then help you come up with a robust strategy that is effective, right? To implement, sound, DLP, data loss prevention strategies, supply chain risk management strategies, right? Network infrastructure, systems, applications, your peripherals, your IoT devices, ICS, right? There's anything with an IP address can be hacked, voice and data. So all your VoIP at your home, trust me, when you get something from, nobody really has an analog phone anymore, right? Everybody has a digital phone. If it's digital, folks, it has an IP address. Your cars have an IP address, right? The fetal heart monitors, the pacemakers all have IP addresses. Those can all be hacked, okay? Those can all be hacked. Anything with an IP address that requires your smart TVs, your gaming systems, all that, we can help you do that, okay? We can help you do that, right? And we have education too, so we can help you also. If SOC is not what you're looking at, we can help you then through, education to help you manage your devices safely, employ really good sound cyber hygiene practices, because good cyber hygiene starts at home, right? If you're a school, right, also we can help with parent, teachers, and kids, right? So it's a multi-pronged approach there, to help secure that data immediately, okay? Right there during that session, we can help walk you through some things that you will implement then, not take it away in the next day, because again, you could be a subject of a breach. Right, so it's important to take implementation immediately and take it seriously. All right, so with that said, I hope this was valuable to you. Okay, a lot of people find cybersecurity boring. I don't, because it's an ever evolving, critical aspect of our lives. We use technology in everything we do. Okay, whether or not it's email on your phone, whether or not social media, right? All those come with significant risks of exploitation of your data, exfiltration of your data, exploitation of people, devices and things. And again, especially in the cyber wars, be used to also launch an attack against our critical infrastructure, like our power grids and all kinds of things, right? So it's everyone's equal responsibility to protect everything we have on the internet, what I call the global information grid, right? And again, good cyber hygiene starts at home. So if you can help train your kids, yourselves to employ best practices right at your home, you'll be much better for it. Okay. And then again, pay it forward, help other people as well, our elderly folks, right? So they don't become, subjected to phishing campaigns and all these things, right? Help our kids so they don't end up in the hands of sex traffickers, right? Child traffickers, right? Help our young girls, our young women and boys, right? So they don't end up in the hands of, predators and things like that, right? There's lots of ways in which you can utilize. There's some vendors too that actually have, like your phones, like if you have AT&T or if you have Verizon, they have some things, parental controls and things, but it's knowing what features and functionality that you can employ, but what you can't, because there's features, functionality, and limitations. It's not 100%. Nothing can be. So again, you need to work with subject matter experts like ourselves that have the bona fide past performance qualifications, having supported military, Department of Defense, right? Department of State, FBI, Anthem, Department of Labor, USAID, FEMA, right, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It goes on and on and on. And been business owners like myself, right, too, that have stood up a security program from bottom up to ensure that we not only remain business compliant, but cyber compliance as well, with our employees and things like that, interns, everyone we have, right, to ensure that our data is secured. And again, we have a security operations center that we use ourselves. So I wouldn't be recommending it if we didn't use it ourselves to watch our own systems, our own data, right, to prevent attacks, right? So anyways, with that said, this is Anna London with Cyvergence. Please reach out to us. I'll put the information in the comments section. So again, this is Anna London with Cyvergence.ai, okay, signing out.